Now we've done this before, so it should be pretty straightforward, but let's go ahead and walk through the steps. So the first part is adding our image asset in some way that we can access it through our site. So let's go ahead and do this through the media module by uploading an image. I'm going to click on content. I'm going to click on media. And then I'm going to click on add file. I'm going to click on browse in order to browse to our image directory inside of our resource pack. And we have an item here called footerbg.png. And this is the one we want to use for our background. I'm going to go ahead and click that and click submit. Okay, once we've uploaded it, we see it as an item here, and we can click it to view the entire image. Now again, if you remember from a previous step, if we're currently in the thumbnail view, this is highlighted and we see thumbnails, we can't get to the full image path simply by clicking on the thumbnail. So we need to go back to the list view, which we're on right now, and then click the item. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and click footerbg.png. All right, and here's the background image. So I'm going to right click it and select copy image location. Okay, and let's go back to the home page. I'm going to go ahead and click home in the navigation. And let's add this background image to the footer. So I'm going to go down to the footer and I'm going to right click it and select inspect element. I'm going to go ahead and scroll down in the main area of the browser so we can see the footer here. And let's go ahead and take a look at where we should add this background image. So we've selected the div with the ID footer wrapper. And if we look at the scope of this item, it looks like it takes up the entire gray box in the footer, which means that if we're setting a background image, this is probably a good candidate for it. If we bump up one level down here, and we hover over page, we see that it takes up the entire page, which is too broad. So this looks like it's a good candidate. Let's go ahead and see if adding the background image to this div does the trick. So I'm going to make sure that it's selected, and then I'm going to go over to the styles area. Now the first style says page wrapper, footer wrapper. So these are two different selectors, and the background here is being set to a particular color. Now, just for experimentation to identify the scope of this particular property, let's click the circle cross and see what happens. So when we do that, we see that the background to the footer disappears. But I'm concerned about this first selector here that says page wrapper. And here, if we look at the HTML, we see page wrapper wrapping around the entire page. And I don't think we want to modify that div in any way at this point. So right below this page wrapper, footer wrapper selector, there's another one that's just for footer wrapper. So let's go ahead and add our background image to this style. Okay, I'm going to right click on this style and select new property. And I'm going to type in background image. And then I'm going to use URL and wrap that around the URL for the background image in quotes. And when we did that, nothing changed here. So like we have in several of the previous videos, let's go ahead and set the important property of this value for the background image. So I'm going to select the value. I'm going to click the right arrow key in order to bump to the end of the value, and I'm going to add important. Okay, and when we did that, we got our background image. Now let's go ahead and copy our new style into a document so we can paste it into CSS Injector. I'm going to copy the selector here, footer wrapper. I'm going to jump to our document. I'm going to add opening and closing brackets. And then let's go ahead and copy this property here. I'm selecting it, selecting copy, and then we'll go ahead and paste it in. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and copy this entire style, and I'm going to click on Edit CSS Injector Rule. I'll close out Firebug to add some screen space. And then I'm going to scroll down to the bottom of the CSS code and paste in our new style. And then I'll scroll down and select Save. Let's exit out of the overlay and scroll down to the bottom. Okay, so our footer looks really good. We now have our padding looking right, and we have our repeating background image.